Okay, let's go ahead and get started since it's 7 o'clock, unfortunately.
As usual.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to our special meeting tonight. If you can join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we've got a pretty short agenda tonight. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, second, by Tammy. Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. So, down to our discussion items of why we're here tonight.
Madam Chair, members of the board, we tried to keep this as simple as possible. We didn't know how many people would be here. This is being streamed live, so I'm sure there's more people watching live than there is here in the audience. Mrs. Lake is going to have to answer a lot of questions and ask a lot of questions, so we're glad she's here. I wanted to start just with the resolution, and kind of what I wanted to do is just go through the resolution. I'd share with you trainings are not paid. Not doing that. So if there would be a savings, it would be minimal. Probably what you're talking about is paper cost.
Cost of maybe attending the conference or two.
Yeah.
But there really is, that was not why I believe we started looking.
No.
You still send
amount.
people,
Still send
so,
probably
yeah.
three.
You're really not gonna save anything there either, because you send the same amount.
Water and chocolate.
Yeah.
That's it.
Water and what, chocolate?
Water and chocolate, yep.
The last two, I haven't looked into positives or negatives associated with large or small school boards. The last one is, why do they want to change it?
So, why don't we tackle some of those questions? So it sounds like you said, Ryan, that the majority of the people want to know pros and cons.
The whys and the pros and cons.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think we need to, let's brainstorm as we're here. What are the pros and what are the cons?
Maybe we should direct that question to Mr. Bennett.
Pros and cons? Well, my personal opinion sometimes isn't worth a lot, but I, of course, am an opinionated person, and I think that 9 people have gotten along okay. It hasn't been a negative thing. I just think that if we had fewer members on the board, that we become more efficient, more able to communicate. We usually only operate with 7 anyway, so let's face the music and boil it down to 7, and then we're always going to have enough available for a quorum. This whole process is trying to get the community involved, and look what we have out in the community. So it's like us have to live with whatever we decide to do. And we're talking about dealing with the 9 of us versus dealing with the 7 of us. I just think it'll be a lot easier with 7 to get the job done and work in that number. Also, I'm more familiar with a 7-man board than I ever have been with a 9. Never have understood that. So that's my pros. I think it's just become a lot more efficient, and I would like to work with 7 people. Thank you.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to open it up.
My opinion is I'm not against a 7-member board. However, UNT County School District is the largest employer in Evanston, Wyoming. And nepotism is nepotism. We're going to have it. We've got members of the board that are on the board right now that have family working for the school district. I think that we need the diversity of a 9-member board, so I'm against it.
There you go.
Well, I've stated all along I'm against it. To me, this is Uintah County School District number 1, and we're going to change something again, just like we have for the last 7 or 8 years. We stand for change, and I don't see why reducing from 9 to 7 is just one more change, which is honestly out there, that's what we're noted for. We don't ever try anything long enough to see it works. Now we're here, we've tried something for 70 years, and it's been pretty successful. I don't understand why we would want to change just to change. There has to be some other reasons. And I do disagree with the quorum part and everything, because that all depends who's elected. If someone's elected that's still working shift work or these other things, they're still not going to attend the meeting whether there's 9 or 7. And Dave's right, we've normally got by with 7 at a lot of meetings. I don't know what the percentage is with 9, not a lot. We've got by with 7, but now if we do have 7, then we get by with 5. And 4 isn't representative votes of our community, I don't feel. And I have other reasons that I think we should look at, the Hilliard and the Almy questions and stuff, but I know that's not here anymore, so thank you.
I'm going to play devil's advocate to Pat, sorry, Kay. Oh my gosh, to Kay's points. Not that I necessarily disagree with him, but I want to sort of provide the counterpoint to the argument. Having been a government attorney for 25 years and having represented many, many boards, I can absolutely attest to the efficiencies that are gained by a smaller board rather than a larger board. In terms of getting representation for the community, we currently have 3 people representing the entire county, and everybody seems to be okay with that. We have 5 people representing the city on the city council, and everybody seems to be okay with that. I noticed in the comments that there were many people that suggested that we actually reduce the board to 5 members, not 7. That's not currently the resolution before us. I don't necessarily believe that just because that's the way we've done it for 70 years is necessarily a reason to keep doing it if we can do it better. I don't believe in change for change's sake either. I do think that there needs to be a purpose and a reason, and I believe the reason that's been espoused by Mr. Bennett is one of efficiency, one of comparable size to other districts within the state, one that can give efficient representation to all of the community, including Almy and Hilliard. We know that the history of this board was a compilation of the consolidation of the Almy School District, the Hilliard School District, and the Evanston School District. But it's not but we no longer have designated seats for those positions. These are all 9 members of at-large seats. I certainly am very interested to hear from the community, which is why I requested that we have sort of an open and public forum for this. I want to hear their comments and their opinions. I appreciate the survey results. But at this point in time, I'm not sure I've made a decision, but I'm leaning towards the reduction because I do believe that actually gives the community better representation, and it makes a better working environment for the board to work cohesively together. Well, I'd like to say that I've, been able to research and been able to come up with the perfect answer. There really isn't a lot out there that says this is the perfect number for a board. There really isn't any information out there. I think we really have to evaluate our situation and know that it's very unique and make a very unique decision for us. I'm in favor of the greater representation of the community. I think we would do a disservice if we eliminated 2 additional people and 2 additional voices that represent a lot more people than just us. Something that was brought to my attention, and I saw that it was down in one of the comments that we'll get to, is that we also need to think about our obligations to other boards that we actually do serve on. I do know that as of right now, the BOCES board, we have 4 representatives that serve on that board.
I'm going to change that.
And I do know that you're trying to get that
Yeah,
done,
I'm gonna change that.
changes on the
Reduce.
BOCES as,
I am.
BOCES as well.
Let me interrupt you. It's like, I can't figure this out, it's a mental thing. It's like 7 people can't operate the same as 9? I don't understand that. And the fact is that 7 of us or 5 of us, we do represent the community. And you see it on the county level, you see it on the city level. So I think this number is kicked around, and change is not good sometimes, but this is a change that can be good, because I believe we can become more efficient with 7 of us, and we always have, I can count on who's going to be here, 7 of us, and that's just where I'm at. And I'm on the BOCES board, and we have 7 on that board, and we have an average of 4 to 5 that show up. And I'm going to work on that board too, because people's time is valuable. And if you can't get them all to where you need to be, you know who's going to be there and be involved in the discussion. So that's just how I feel about it. Sorry for interruption there, Cassie.
Okay.
So can I
Okay.
respond to that too, Cassie?
Yeah, let me finish first, please. And my counter to your comment, I don't see why 9 members can't be just as good as 7. So the point that I was trying to point out, if changes aren't made to the BOCES board, that if for some reason all 4 of our members show up, I would like to ask maybe Mr. Phillips about, that would technically be a quorum for this setting, would that be a problem in a different meeting?
You're gonna have to repeat that up.
I didn't get that either.
So if technically a quorum, the numbers are reduced here, and a quorum would be 4 for us, and all 4, a total of 4 members go to a different, say, we all show up at the BOCES meeting, and there's 4 of us. Do we have issues
Just with noticing,
Yeah,
that we have a quorum
yeah,
together?
yeah.
And we do discuss some district matters at a BOCES meeting. Would that be an issue?
Yes,
Can,
short answer.
I mean, would there be any discussion about making appointments like we've talked about with the rec board with that? I mean, to solve that issue? As far as board members' time, I mean, if this happens and then half of us have to be on the BOCES board, is that an option to say we can appoint somebody from the district like we did with the rec board?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
One
could.
of the reasons why the BOCES board is set up the way it is because it's a cooperative agreement between us and Western Wyoming. The district has never chose to give away that power to maintain the larger vote. 4 from Uinta County School District #1 and 3 from Western Wyoming, sorry. So, never chosen to do that, but that may be one of the ways you could get around the 4 members.
Okay.
Because it would require basically the same thing we do for every meeting where we have a quorum here.
Okay.
Notice, posted.
So that was my main question that I wanted to just bring up and have out there. So, thank you.
And just, if I
Okay.
can add to
Sure.
that, there's also the CBRV board, there's also the rec board. And we allow others to sign up for those boards, but that was one of the purposes of having board members represent our district on those boards where they represent our students. I actually would, if it was possible, would rather see our board members on the rec board than representatives, because we have issues that are pending. The rec center, and we need to have that representation. You guys know more about what's happening in the district and the needs we have in the district than someone that would represent you. It's another level of separation.
Okay, thank you. Kim?
I'm not sure how to say this without being rude, and I don't want to be rude. Mr. Bennett, what's your position on the BOCES board?
I'm the chairman
Okay, so,
this year. I haven't been in the past, but I've been on the committee since I've been in
Okay, so-
the school board. No, but one person can make a difference, and that's what one person can do.
that's my
And
point.
I shouldn't use the word I. I am one person. I only have one vote. And I realize that, okay? But I'm just saying that I've been accused of having an agenda. Yeah, I have an agenda. It has nothing to do with getting rid of anybody on the board. I'm just believe there should be 7. I work in 2 different boards. There's others of you that have been on other boards, and you've requested to get off of those and assign somebody else there because you're overburdened with all these other obligations you have, and I understand that. Kay and I are the only 2 that are retired, and we enjoy it. So,
Retirement or divorce?
well, we've been willing to serve, I should say, and I realize that. So as far as the other board goes, the BOCES board, we've made some changes on that right now, I said we, and we will continue to look at some of these other issues. Right now, we have it represented with 3 and 4. 4 from the district, 4 of you guys. And on an average, I get 2 of you there besides myself, usually. So, it's another situation. But, I see it's a serving issue, and I realize people, when they run for the school board, they should be committed to want to serve. And sometimes it's hard to do because they have a lot of other things that get in their lives. And life is challenging at times, so I understand that.
Dave, do they Skype Moses yet? I know that's what they.
No, we don't Skype it yet. We've changed our meeting schedule, and I guess I'm guilty of that. We used to meet every month. Now we meet 5 times a year. And I think it's become a lot more efficient, though. Jenny, you can talk to that because you're on that board, and it's better, and because there's not a lot happening that we need to meet as much. So I think it's been effective, and that's why I feel this can be a very effective thing too. And it's us really, the community, sure, we've given everybody a chance to get involved, but when it gets right down to it, it's us. Because you can see, we haven't got a lot of community involvement here tonight. And they're not 166 responses out of how many people live in this county, this district? So it's still back on our shoulders. Thank you.
The majority of those 166 are our staff members.
Yeah.
They're
Ron,
easier to
we
get.
don't know who's watching tonight. What I would like to see is this piece of paper that we have. I would like to see all of these individuals that haven't gone one way or the other to vote. Because this is a big amount of no votes.
Well, they have
Comment
voted.
sections are those that were both.
They have voted, haven't they?
So it's just, this is,
This
There
is
are
just-
some
the top
comments
is
that are
just-
sort of neutral, but,
Right,
Yeah.
and some that say I need more information.
right.
So that first comment section we read were just those who were undecided. The next comment section, which has the bulk,
Right.
were those that wanted 9 or wanted 7 and then made comments.
Right,
okay.
thank you.
Should we go through the rest of the comments and see if there
Well,
is?
we haven't heard
Oh.
from Tammy or Jenny.
And Ryan,
Speak up.
I'm sorry, I wanted to ask real fast again. Give me the numbers again. Survey respondents, those in favor, those opposed. 100 and something responses?
164 are represented on these sheets because, like I said, 2,
Two were to
it's
no.
open. 2's after I did that, so.
Okay,
So there were 52 responses for 9 and 98 responses for 7.
that's okay.
And that means there's 16 that were undecided. And I will put this back out to the staff, encouraging them again.
Okay, if you guys want to, you don't have to, but if you want to share. Yes.
Okay, so I actually tried this past, in between the last board meeting and this meeting, to do some asking around, just to see if I could get a feel of what the people that I am around feel like about this. And there were some soft no's and yeses, but most of the people had no opinion. Well, I don't know, what do you think? So my my feeling on this is, in an ideal board, I would like to, when we're discussing an issue and voting on an issue, I would like to have input from every board member, some debate, some points and counterpoints, and then a vote. And I feel like when we have 9 people here, we have 4 and 5 hour meetings. And it is, I like doing this, and I'm more than happy to spend my time here, but I feel like we could really be more efficient. If we're working with 7 and say then 5 becomes our norm, 7 and 5. I feel like with the representation, the voters have to be smart either way. Like if they're voting for 5 people on the board, they have to be I mean, if they feel strongly that this one person should be on the board, then they vote only for that person. You have to be smart about who you vote for. You have to do your research. You have to talk to the people and be willing to be smart about who you're voting for. And then the board should be representative of the voters if they're doing that, doing their due diligence. I don't see many cons to reducing. I do see more efficiency. That is appealing to me. But as far as cons, I was reading through some of this, like one family could get control of the board. Well, don't vote one family in, you guys. I mean, with 9 people, there are some families in this district that have hundreds of people. Don't vote. It's the voters that do that, So I don't feel like, I don't know, I don't feel like the representation will be hurt, because, if somebody, say the Hilliard people know that somebody has connections with Hilliard, or they've talked with the people who are running and they're sensitive to their concerns, then they need to vote for that person. Like, I just feel like, be smart voters and make us, our time is valuable, just like everybody else's. So I'm in favor of it right now.
Just to counter that, as far as the time that we spend at our board meetings, I have to say, I think that has been a reason for parent involvement. And we have a lot of people that are here now. We didn't before. We'd be out of a board meeting in hour and a half. Well, now we do have community involvement at our meetings. And then we have packed agendas sometimes that take us forever. And I've always been against a packed agenda because I think that anything after 8 o'clock, you lose, you don't want to be here. You want to go home. Everyone is either worked a full day or, in the case of
Dave and I haven't.
Kay and Dave, maybe not, but I think that's why we are
Just at the
seeing.
bank. That's why I saw Kay today.
I think
Kim, do you think that if you do that and in fact have more meetings for people to attend, that you would get less involvement from the community in running for office if it takes more time commitment than doing some efficiencies with a smaller board? Yeah, I was going to say, I totally appreciate that, and I appreciate, that you could sort of break up the meetings like that. However, I also appreciate what Tammy said, that fewer people to comment to some degree that will perhaps make the meetings more efficient. I don't necessarily need to have more meetings for meeting's sakes. I'm perfectly happy to go to midnight, but I'm weird. So I'd rather do that in one meeting than go to 3 meetings until 8 o'clock, so.
Well, I would like to have
do you want to finish up?
I was going to just say, I think, like the rest of you, I have had conversations around the community with those people I interact with. And for the most part, most of them were in favor of the reduction. There were a few, what the heck are you smokins? But when I sat down and sort of laid out the pros and the cons to each, most of them seemed to say, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. But then there were a lot of really ambivalent feelings. So I don't know that this is necessarily going to be dramatic or drastic. And it's just a matter of what do we think is in the best interest of the school district and the children. And that's really where my vote's going to come down to.
And that's, you're the
Ticky-tocky. Okay. I appreciate that you're having a special meeting and you're letting the public come and comment. And so I'd just like to share my opinion, and that's what it is. I think that reducing to a 7-member board is a really bad idea. I think that a lot of the people that said they need more information or they don't really care is because they've never served on a board, so they don't understand the time commitment. I think you're putting an undue strain on yourselves if you're expected to serve on 2 or 3 boards. Yeah, that's hours every month that you're volunteering your time. And with people's work schedules, people cannot always do that. So I think that's a bad idea because it's putting way more pressure on fewer people to take more responsibility. I don't think it's a good idea to give up our control as a voting body on the BOCES board. I think we always want to be in that control position, and I would hate to see changes made to our rec board because we vote to give money, taxpayer dollars, to the rec center every year. And so I would hate to see our representation lowered for that as a school board. I also think, I know one of you mentioned voters need to do their due diligence and know who they're voting for, but for an example, we have 3 people that are in the same family on our 9-member board. I don't think it's constitutional for us to say, if you serve on, okay, they got elected, you can't run because you're all Wellings. And I'm just saying that about you. I'm not calling anybody out. Populations turn over 20% every year because people die, people move in, and people move out. And so the fact that Tammy has a different last name than Welling, most people don't do the time to go find out who their ancestors are of who they're voting for, and they would never know that. So with a 7-member board, your quorum goes to 4 people. So Casper, to me, is a perfect example. Last night at their school board meeting, they voted to close 4 schools. They closed 3 elementaries and 1 middle school because they've had a student reduction of 900 in their student population. So what you're saying is if you could go to a quorum of 4, you're saying that potentially 1 family could close schools for our whole district. It's not fair to the community, and it's not fair to your families, because you'd take so much heat for something like that. Even if it was the thing you had to do, it was the most important thing, you guys would be crucified. And so I don't think, looking forward for board members that might be in the same families years down the road, I think you're doing a huge disservice because of the personal persecution that you're going to get for making a decision, or a family member. And you might not care, but you're not everybody that serves on the board. So I think it's a bad idea. Another reason is you guys are in charge of, like, I don't know what your budget is this year, but $32 million. And 52 is what it was. Sorry. Yeah. With the extra 20 million. But I just don't feel like it's fair to ask 4 people to be responsible for a $52 million budget. And I don't think it's in the best interest of the staff to have 4 people who are, and say you do get people in there with an axe to grind. Lots of comments came about who's got an agenda. Well, if all you need is 4 people to vote, it's going to be really easy to make that happen. But you have 9 people to bounce it off of. No, it's not irrelevant, Mr. Bennett. It's irrelevant because it's not your opinion. So I'm irrelevant because that's what you just said. It's irrelevant. My opinion is irrelevant. That's exactly my point. I'm a citizen and I pay taxes and I vote. And every person in this community is a citizen and pay taxes and they vote. Every one of us are relevant. And if you've got this tiny little board so that you can be making decisions that you want to, because I'm not relevant, because it's not your idea, you're going to take advantage of that. I don't know if we have or not. I'm saying if you go to a 4 quorum, I don't think it's a good idea. And your comment just solidified it. Because you're saying if I'm not relevant, then no, whatever you decide is what's going to happen. Yeah, but you're one vote of 4. So there's 9 people that are accountable, and you're not all in the same circles of influence. It's very easy to have 3 or 4 people in the same circle of influence all the time. It's very difficult to have 9 people in the same circle of influence. So whatever you decide to do, I'll respect, because we've elected you and that's your decision. But as a citizen, as a person that served on the school board, I think it's a very, very bad idea. I don't think it's going to save you any money or any time, but I think you're going to be better off in the long run, each one of you individually, because there's more of you to shoulder the burden. And I just feel like there's some hidden reason that we just keep pushing this, go down, go down. There's really no pro, but there's a lot of cons, and that's my opinion. So like I said, I'll respect what you do. I'd like to know who are the incumbents. So who are we going to cut to that they don't get elected again if they run? Because I'm not sure who that is.
I'm up.
2 of the Wellings are up, so
Cassie, Jenny,
that would
Kim,
kind of change
Josh.
that.
Josh. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Next.
Colette Lake. Evanston. So I am in favor of cutting the board, not because it's something I've dwelled on or thought much before this came up. But one reason would be communication. I was talking to my friend who is on a board in Wyoming with a lot smaller, and I told her how many we had, and she said, how does anybody even know who to talk to? Like, who do you even go to? And in my experience over the past 2 years, is that's kind of how it happens. You can email the entire board and get maybe 1 response back. So I feel like the community isn't here because the community feels irrelevant as far as what the board decides. Even when there were packed meetings, it has to be packed meetings for months and months and months before the board will listen to what the packed meeting has. And so I don't see, and 9 people, you're bouncing ideas for hours and hours and hours. You reduce that number, you're still bouncing ideas. You've still got plenty of ideas, but they're not going in so many directions, so many different ways. As far as cutting 2 board members and not being able to run and being fair, we're adults. I mean, that's just kind of your choice. If you choose to run again, if you're an incumbent, that's the option. Only 2 of us are going to make it, or 3, or whatever. I mean, in sports in the district, do we go, well, that's not fair to the kids, so we're not going to cut that because that's not fair to the kids? I don't think the board members are the ones that fairness needs to be talked about. A board, you run for a board, you know the odds, you know what you're signing up for, you know the hour, the time commitment, and you have to weigh those pros and cons. If you want, is that, for me, I'm not going to run for the school board because I do not have that time. I'm not going to give that commitment. So, but somebody that really feels passionately that wants to, go ahead, but they need to know up front, these are the boards that the school board is responsible for in these hours. So, I mean, that's just kind of, adults are running and adults can make those decisions for themselves. I don't think that's the school district's job to say, let us make it easier to be on the board. We want to get the best people to run for the board. And I think at 7, you're going to be way more efficient. We're just going to, I've come to board meetings for 2 years, and I think maybe 2 or 3 times there's been a full board. So the 1 vote, 4 to 5, you're right. I mean, I talked to Mountain View, Lyman, both have 5 members. Sure, they're a heck of a lot smaller than us. Mountain View has like 1,000 people in town. Compared to our 13,000, they have 5 board members. Talk about nepotism possibilities, the possibility of 1 family to be on a board. It hasn't been an issue. But I will tell you what, people run for board when they do have an axe to grind or when there is something they want. That is the purpose of the board. If you're going to be committed, you're going to be committed. And so those are things you can't worry about. I mean, I think each of you ran for board for a reason. You had a reason you wanted to be on the board. Something was happening or not happening that you wanted to be part of. And I think you just can't worry about what those reasons are. You have to let people run, and 7 or 9, you're not cutting anybody's opportunity. I mean, yeah, 2 people more, but it's life. That's just how it goes. So those are just my thoughts. Thanks.
All right, it's been a while since I've had to get up here and talk. I'm standing actually because I recently, Lacey Tippett's 109 Broken Circle. I forgot all that. So I went to a PCAT meeting about a month ago, and there was 6 parent/community members in attendance, and 1 ended up leaving. And when we got to the board discussion, there was 5 of us. And we had I thought it was a pretty good discussion about why we should reduce. There's 5 parents there, and there was no like, oh, maybe we should go stay with 9. Nobody had any like real feeling of 9's the way to go. They had the 7. One of the ladies that was there, she serves something to do with like the city. I don't know what she does, and I don't want to say her name, but if you want to ask me later and you can follow up. But she's like, well, city council only has 5. Why are we, like, this is no big deal. Like, so going to that meeting and hearing that, I'm like, okay, that was a simple, let's do it. And then I'm sitting here and I'm looking at who has taken the time to fill out the survey and what comments are being had. And you can feel the ones that are like really, really subjective, like there's emotion behind them. And then you can feel the ones that are just like, yeah, let's just do it. And for me, I'm one of those, yeah, let's just do it kind of people. 160, how many people? 64, and 92 of them said, let's do it. Why are we like banging our head up against the wall? These people are the ones that took the time to care. Represent the people that care. I mean, I can talk to lots of my friends. I'm from here. I grew up here. I can go say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? Nobody really has an opinion about a 9 or 7 member board. Straight up. But those people who came and they, or us, or those people that got on and filled out the survey, they cared. Represent the people that cared is what I'm trying to say. And you guys can sit here and be like, well, you're Dave Bennett's daughter. Trust me. I moved out 10 years, put my husband through pharmacy school, 4 kids. I am not exactly like this man. So we have a lot of different opinions. So do not look at me and think, oh, she's sitting here saying, well, this is because of her dad and so on and so forth. No, it's because I'm looking at this objectively. What are these people saying? These are the people that care. You keep talking about, I want to represent people. Represent the people that took the time to care. Okay? That's what I want to just say. Thank you. Yeah, I come here. Oh, great. Come on, Jamie.
All my relatives are in the valley.
So with all of those comments, did that spark any questions? Have we not answered anything that people have thoughts about? I see nothing.
I move we adjourn.
So just
I'd like to see the pie graph again.
just to explain the schedule.
Pie graph.
Yeah,
I was
gonna be my next question is, where are we on the schedule?
I will update the input on this survey on the work session, and then you guys have scheduled to vote on it at the second.
Oh, crap, that's what I was afraid you were gonna say. Well, I'm gonna make it work.
So 50, say I can't.
Is it
59.3% of who answered the survey support a reduction to 7.
Yes.
Yes.
He gave me the numbers of 98, so out of 164 responses, 98 were in favor of the reduction, 52 were opposed to the reduction, and 16 were undecided.
See, since we've been doing this, someone else responded.
Oh, that's good.
Working.
Which way? I gotta update my numbers.
Well, the numbers stayed about the same.
So my question, I know that we're trying to keep this open through parent-teacher conferences, so we can maybe still reach some more people. Are Are we going to have maybe stations set up where people can actually take the survey there? I know we've done that for our other stuff in the past.
We were gonna do that for the high school, middle school, they've already have done their parent-teacher conferences, but the middle school had already decided to do the high reliability school survey, so we didn't.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
But what we'll do is we'll see what the elementary principals have planned at their parent-teacher conferences. They're a little different than elementary. You actually go into the classroom where it was an arena style at middle schools and high schools. So I would like to do that. Trust me, I'd like to get a lot more input. And like I said, I'll take this to the staff again and encourage more to participate.
Safer might be willing to put something in mind.
And I did get it on the radio,
Okay.
but no one seemed to listen to me.
But Jeff's right, I mean, you know, we could have a little blurb in the paper to say, if you're interested in taking the survey, here's the link.
They might do that part of their article. I kind of thought they were gonna do that at their last meeting, so we'll encourage them to do that too.
Okay.
So
Okay.
then, excuse me, Cassie.
No, it's okay.
Then the timeline would be the next work session,
The work session will share the updated survey,
and then the next meeting we're gonna vote on,
the resolution, yes.
and we'll be done with it,
Yes,
so we can get done with it.
One way or the other.
and then we'll start talking about, just kidding, residency areas.
We need to talk about, House Bill 195.
And thank you, Ryan, for accommodating my request to do this. Thank you very
So-
much. I appreciate that.
So, fellow board members know, I put it on discussion for the next board meeting to reduce to one meeting a month.
I'm okay with
And I
that.
did that beforehand, like you're supposed to, right?
Yeah, you did, yeah.
Yes.
So I kind of stole your thunder, but
Yeah.
So, do you have anything